I'm surprised Carlisle didn't have your photo at the front of the arena there. So
Bogues, I was thinking about that Knicks thing about the facial recognition when I got in. I thought some alarm was going to come off. It was the first time I got in, and it was an interesting experience.
Welcome to Rogue Bogues, another episode of the basketball series. Myself, Andrew Bogut, pro, live from Dallas, and a shout out to Trent every now and then tuning in. This is our Easter Sunday, pro. This is what we do for you.
That's great, Bogues, because, I came a day earlier, which that's what I'm doing for you guys. So
I'll give you Easter Sunday off. That's why I eat all those eggs. Vegan eggs.
Like you two pricks are going to really do something for my benefit. I appreciate that.
Always.
But the two things I want to lead off with is our boy Landale, or should I call him my new name, Shaquille Landale. And the second thing's my apologies, deepest apologies to Zion Williamson, who's actually finally losing weight and killing it. Because we've been so hard. I've been really harsh on the kid, and he's been playing great. So those are the two things I want to get it off my chest going into the show.
Yes, we have those both on the run sheet, so we'll get to those shortly. A lot to get through today. Obviously, college basketball going on right now. NBA's 8 or 9 games left in the season, so seeding starting to really matter. NBL Finals, Game 5. So we'll talk about all that shortly. And let's get rolling with our team of the week. I'm interested to see who you have this week, bro. Who's your team?
I'm gonna go with the Dallas Mavericks as my team of the week. Bogues, these guys are really dangerous. They've been knocking off teams. Look, I could have went with Houston. Look, they've won a bunch of games in a row. I think 11 maybe. And they've been great. But Dallas, what they've been doing, Bogues, I mean, since the trade for Gafford, getting off of Williams, they're next level good as far as a team that was probably borderline mid playing type to a team that could challenge for the West. I mean, I don't know if there would be Denver, but like what they've been doing with the Gafford, with the Luka Doncic Gafford, rolls to the rim, the way they've been defending, more just like moving the ball. I mean, they've been playing really well. I mean, they had one of the worst defenses in the league, coming into the, after the trading deadline. They've done really well. And just from what I've been seeing them as a team, I'm really impressed. I think they could really challenge, because if you think about it, if you really look at the matchups in the West, the way they've been playing, besides Denver, there's really not a team, maybe the Clippers if they're healthy, but the Clippers haven't been great in the last couple of weeks either. They're a tough team, Bogues. They're going to be a tough out going forward.
Yeah, I had them as well. I agree with you in Houston. Shout out to them, 11 straight. They're playing really good basketball right now. Kind of a softer schedule starts to get a little bit tighter for them, but Dallas have been balling. They're 9-1 in their last 10. And I picked them in my top 6, I believe, in the preseason based on, they got 2 guys that are all league closers, right? Like Kyrie's great in the clutch, Luka's great in the clutch. They make tough shots. They've had numerous games over the last month where that game where Luka hit the big 3 and then Kyrie hit the left-handed runner that we spoke about. They have closers, man, and you need those in the playoffs, and I agree with you in the playoffs. I think that the 1 and 2 seeds have had really good seasons, but they face the Dallas Mavericks potentially in the first round if they do fall to a 7, which they shouldn't. But they'll probably get them in the second round. Not a team you want to face. They've got a lot of good pieces. They made some great trades at the deadline. Got off Williams. I think Washington's been a good acquisition for them as well. Gafford, like you said, they're still not setting the world on fire defensively. They're 20th in the league in opposing points per game from opposing teams. 19th in assists. They don't move the ball that well, but that's because they have 2 ISO guys that can just completely change the way they play. I like to see them rebound a little better though, 21st in rebounding. So they need to, if they can get those numbers towards the end of this season a little bit, 15, 16, they'll be okay, but they're 16 points per game. And it brings me to a point about, the talk around Luka Doncic and MVP. You haven't heard it as much as you probably should. There's still the usual suspects in Jokic, and Giannis is up there. I think SGA deservedly up there, but Luka, man, I mean, 33.8, 9.1 rebounds and 9.8 assists a night. And if they continue to surge, I mean, he's going to be up there. I think it's probably, Jokic you can never count out, but SGA versus Luka, in my opinion, and I think they're both, SGA's had one of those seasons where they're a 1-2 seed. You saw a similar thing with Steph when he won his first one, was that surge of the Warriors coming up to, being a mid-tier team to first, and then bang, he was the MVP. That could be SGA, but Luka's definitely in the mix, having a hell of a season.
Bogues, I had them 10th coming into the season, and for Luka, I had him at 1. I think Luka's an unbelievable talent. Obviously, he hasn't had the playoff success that Jokic has had to really bring him forward, but for what he does and how he impacts the game, first of all, just like Jokic, I mean, they're probably 1 and 2 in the league in passing as far as vision and be able to make plays for other people. Yeah, he holds the ball a lot. He isolates, no question about it. But as far as that team having, there's a lot of negativity towards Kyrie Irving, and a lot of it's justified. A lot of the things that he does and, off the court stuff, as far as some of the things he says and how he does it. Now, when he's not bored and he's sort of focused on the basketball end and doesn't get into the other stuff and actually plays games, he's a juggernaut. And putting those two guys that can not only close games, can score in any situation, can make plays. And both those guys are two of the top finishers that I've ever seen as far as when they get into the basket. And they're just a tough out. They're not perfect, don't get me wrong. And I don't know how long this run's going to be, but those two guys are juggernauts. And like you said, yeah, not a lot of Jokic talk. I mean, not a lot of Doncic talk for MVP, but I mean, if you watch what he does and his shooting's improved, his 3-point shooting's improved, his conditioning has been pretty good. His free throw shooting's almost 5% better from last year. His 3-point shooting's better. I mean, those 30-point triple-double run that he's made has been pretty special. And look, they've elevated their play. I think the trade had a lot to do with it, getting Williams out and the Gafford deal we talked about. But yeah, they're a fun team to watch, and they're you could tell they're together and they play well together. And like I said, it's good because all we've been hearing all year, is Denver, Denver Clippers, and then the two teams, Oklahoma City, Minnesota. It's good to have another team in the mix that could challenge those guys a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, excited to see how they go in the playoffs. Very, very well-built team. Just be interesting to see if they have enough defense and rebounding for mine to get deep into a conference final / a finals, but they definitely have the scoring, they have the closers. So interested to see that. All right, my weak team of the period, Pro. I'm going to go with the Milwaukee Bucks. There's the usual suspects, and usually we go with teams once they hit the double-digit loss column. Toronto Raptors, shout out to you, honorable mention, but they're clearly in a tanking mode. They've got a bunch of injuries. They're resting guys. They've lost 12 straight, so they can definitely be in contention, but yeah, the Milwaukee Bucks, just consistency for me. They just can't seem to put together a nice little run here. I mean, they went from circle back to March 6th, lost to Golden State, lost to Lakers. Then they go and beat the Clippers. So you're like, okay, things are turning the corner. Then they drop one a sack. Then they beat Philly and Phoenix, 2 good, decent wins. Okay, Philly are so-so, but Phoenix, decent team. Lose to Boston, beat Brooklyn and OKC, and then they lose to the Lakers and New Orleans. They just can't. They're battling Atlanta right now. They're up by 10 in the third, but just consistency. It just still doesn't look right. Look, they've had some injuries. They've had guys in and out of lineups. Giannis has rested a few nights. Dame's still trying to find his shooting touch. So they've had some inconsistencies there, but it just does not seem like a team at this point of the season. You need to at least start putting some. You lose a game to a buzzer beater or someone drops 50, shit happens in the NBA, right? But the way they've lost some of those games, just, a few of those games, no life, getting blown out, to teams that they probably should be competing with, is not a great sign going into the playoffs. And they're sitting at 2 right now, Pro. Who do you think is going to be that 7 or 8 seed? The 7 is probably going to be Miami. And that's what everyone's looking at is like, Miami's full game behind Indiana for the 6. If Miami stay in that 7, Milwaukee might lose 4 in a row at the end of the season to try and get out of that 2 to get to 3, because they do not match up well with the Miami Heat historically. Of course, last season, but just in general, they do a really good job with Giannis. So I'm interested to see what if they play any shenanigans trying to get out of that 2 seed.
Bogues, I'll tell you what, like Indiana has had their number too.
As well, yeah. You're right.
So they're tough. I mean, it's not going to be easy for them. Look, I've been saying it all year. I've been saying it probably for 2 years. I think that the free throw shooting of Giannis is going to be a big problem down the stretch in playoff games. Look, in the regular season, you have a lot of blowouts. If he goes 2 for 8 from the free throw line on some nights, it doesn't really affect them. But you know how this playoff stuff happens. Most games are close. They're going to single that out in clutch time, especially when they start counting his free throws and things like that. I think that's a huge problem. It hasn't been addressed. He hasn't really been a consistent free throw shooter for a few years now. And like the other night when they lost that, I think they lost. I forgot who they lost to. Was it the Lakers? Who he went like 1 for 6 or 2 for 6 in the free throw line? 1 for 6, I believe. So I mean, I believe that's going to be a big problem. You can't. To me, you can't be a closing franchise type player, MVP player, that if you can't make free throws down the stretch, because you're going to cost your team wins. And look, everything he does is good, but he needs to be able to get that free throw down, or it's going to be a big problem, especially as he gets out of the first round going forward. If he even does that, Miami's going to be tough. Indiana's going to be tough. I think that they're gonna face a pretty tough first round matchup, like you said, unless they try to get themselves out of it. If they want to do that, if they want to play those numbers,
they got to absolutely tank to get to 4 if they want to do that. But that's suicide at that point.
No.
Giannis is at 65%, so not hack a Shaq realm. 64 last season. The season they won it, he was 72. So. But yeah, it's a confidence thing. When he makes his first couple, he seems to be better. But yeah, you're right. If it's a tight playoff game, they're going to wrap him up a lot and just bank on him going 1 for 2 and then trying to come back and hit a 3 or a 2.
It's weird, Bogues. He'll have games though where he goes 9 for 10.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen a lot. Don't get me wrong.
We saw it in the NBA Finals against Phoenix. I mean, he had the 17 for 19 night, wasn't it, or 18 for 20 or something like that?
It's something like that.
Yeah, and I won on the game. So I won on the series, really. So. I still think that he's still obviously an all-league player, but that's probably the one thing. And then Dame shooting in general just hasn't been great. He's I don't know what his splits are at right now. Let's have a look. But he had that horrendous start from the new year, which were just not great. But they do have a bit of shooting woes. They are a pretty high tempo team just because they want Giannis to really push the ball. You look at Dame's splits right now. He's at 42% from the field. 35% from 3, so he's somewhat improved there. But they still have work to do. I'm just not sold on them. And teams that are just clunky heading into playoffs, to me, you got to get some sort of trajectory, some sort of rhythm, some sort of flow, feeling good about yourself, having your squad healthy, and you've played 10, 15 good games to have a decent playoff series. So maybe they'll prove us wrong, but I'm not a fan. Who was your team this week?
Milwaukee. Yeah, Milwaukee the same.
Yep. Yeah. So, all right, moving on. There's a lot of news going on, but the one bit of news probably that was massive news over the last couple of weeks was Jontay Porter with the Raptors, brother of Michael Porter Jr., under investigation by the NBA for irregular betting or prop betting involving him. Basically, I don't know what platform it was on, but they reported that the biggest action for a night was on him. And look, he's a role player that plays limited minutes. Some nights plays 4 or 5 minutes, some nights plays 18 minutes. I think there were a bunch of props for his unders one night. He was recovering from an eye injury. The night where there was the most action seen, the player with the most action seen on that night was him. He leaves the game within 3 or 4 minutes with a re-aggravated eye injury. Obviously, there's some smoke there, but I just want to say, I think, as a podcast was sponsored by a sports betting an agency, sports betting's everywhere in Australia, everywhere now in the US, becoming more and more prominent. I'm not one of those guys. It's like it should be banned, because I believe that everyone should have some sort of discipline to stop themselves doing that. I don't think that you should ban things just because there's people that are struggling with it. It's the same as buying alcohol, cigarettes, all that kind of thing. Everything's in moderation. So I just want to say that. But I don't think this is a one-off. I think this is happening more than we would know. College basketball, international basketball, NBA basketball, not just basketball, sports in general. The fact that you've got all these parlays You've got all these different betting platforms that you can go on. You have to remember the NBA players have an inner circle. All pro athletes have an inner circle. So you got Joe Blow, your cousin that you've known since you were 12 years old. It's probably on your payroll for $100K a year. He's getting access to information that can change and swing bets. So, I come home, I'm playing for the Warriors. I come home, oh shit, Steph's banged up today at practice. He's not going to play tonight. Hasn't been announced. Joe Blow, the cousin, goes and puts the money on it. This is happening this will happen a shitload. Problem was that this happened, that obviously there was a lot more betting that triggered these betting agencies. But I think it's a question of how do you fix it? What do you do? It's hard. You talk about NBA contracts being so high. This is a big part of it. Sports betting is involved now. So contracts have gone up. So that's the positive of it. The negative is now players complaining about saying, all I hear in the crowd is, hey Bogut, I need +8 rebounds for you tonight for my parlay, and it's just like I used to laugh at dudes that would sit behind the bench in the road games and say, "Come on, Bogut, I got you on your fantasy. Got you on my fantasy team, man. I need more from you tonight." Blah, and I'll turn around and be like, "Fuck your fantasy team. I live in reality. Like I couldn't give a shit about your fantasy team."
Yeah, Bogues, that was probably me, and you're right, you didn't. So you needed to give me more. So don't worry about it.
Late in my career, earlier I was a good buy earlier. Late in my career, not too good. But yeah, to the point that it's happening a lot now that even the NBA is working with FanDuel and DraftKings to integrate live betting into the NBA app. So no longer do you have to swipe out of the NBA app, checking the stats. You can just do it straight. You don't have to log into the sports betting app. You can do it direct from there. So it's a huge issue. I think it's happening more than we know. Look, are players doing it at mass? No. But, let's say you're a non-guaranteed camp guy, right? You're a non-guaranteed camp guy, or you're a vet min guy, or non-guaranteed camp guy. You make a roster. You're there for at least the first month, till there's a waive period or whatever. You might get waived by January. And you're making, after, let's say $500,000 after taxes, couple $100,000. And someone's offered you, hey, you got to go under this parlay, I'll give you $200,000. It's hard. People are going to be like, I might not even be in the league in a month's time. I might be in Europe or China. Like, why not? I'll make some cash. You got vet min guys, pro, that are, we all know how silly athletes can be with their money. Towards the end of their tether, year 12, 13, 14, they're on the vet min, making a few million a year. Yes, it is a lot of money for some people, but these guys probably have a mansion in Miami and LA and funding different lifestyles. So they're making about $1 million after tax. Someone offers them, I'll give you over the course of the season a couple of $1 million to tip me off on 4 or 5 parlays. Do you think guys are not doing that? Now, I don't think it's en masse, but I think it's happening, and I think it's you've kind of let the devil in the room with you. And then finally, with this news, a Minnesota employee was just fired and charged with 3rd-degree burglary for stealing thousands of files that included NBA strategic info. That's the other side, pro. You got these whole analytics departments, low-level employees, 80, 100 grand a year. They've got access to some information that can completely swing betting, right? So you factor all that in, man. You're like, there is some smoke to this fire, and I think the fact that this one got released, all betting agencies and betting platforms have algorithms that trigger that, if we usually get this much betting on this role player, that's fine. As soon as it goes heavily above, they know something's up, and they have algorithms to give them an alert or an alarm to say, hey, someone's got inside information, blah, 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 blah. So I don't know what your thoughts are on it, pro. I don't think you turn the tap off. I don't think you should make it illegal, but it's just something that I'm not sure how the NBA fixes it at this point.
The more I'm worried about, Bogues, like we talked about this right from the start, and the prop bet things I've been really worried about that part of it, from the inception, just because of that, just because any player could be like, you know what, my plus minus is say like 14 tonight or 18 points. Your boy's like, hey, look, put whatever on it. I'm just going to pass a lot tonight. So go ahead and do your thing. So yeah, there is some danger in that. I don't think it's rampant, but I do think it happens a lot more than one would think. The way it happened was his 3-point shots plus minus, right?
And then, over under, yeah. Under and point. I think it was points and 3-point makes was 0.5. So he needed to make one to be the over, but he checked out of the game within 4 minutes.
Right. So my thing is, look, there aren't many people who watches more film than I do. And there's a lot of moron players that would take bad shots or don't shoot when they should shoot. So instead of checking yourself out of a game, why not just pass the ball around and just like make it look good, right? But that's neither here nor there. I worry about what I do worry about, Bogues. I worry about the health of the players or a coach, JV Bickerstaff, or, getting threats to him and his family about certain things. It starts in joking, like, hey, I need 11 rebounds for you tonight. Like, some guys are just joking. Some guys aren't.
Some guys are,
yeah, some guys are going to get their legs broken if that bet doesn't pay off on Monday. Their legs are broken by Thursday when it's collection day. So now a lot more of these guys aren't going through bookies anymore. They're going through, regular, platforms. I do think with the prop betting, if I were the league, and the league's always good with, trying to investigate things and try to change them and tweak them to where it works better. I do think that the prop betting should only be a certain amount of players, should only be some of the better players. So, like, I'm not saying they're above not cheating or anything like that, but I think like LeBron James or Luka or whatever, like if you're betting on their plus minus, they're a lot, obviously.
Yeah, they're making $50 million a year. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're not really worried about that. Like, they're just going to do what they do. And they know most of these guys are smart enough to know, like you said, that all this stuff is tracked. So if if it comes up that, I don't know, if it comes up that JJ Barea is, usually doesn't get any money bet on him, and there's like $3 million bet on his minus or his plus on a certain stat, that they're going to red flag it, or a player like that, Gary Trent Jr. or, Chris Boucher or something. But
what I'm saying is a lot of betting agencies probably will cap random bets anyway. So that this is my issue with sports betting, is like, they ban people that are good at sports betting. So if you're a lifetime winner and you're classified as a professional gambler, you can't even gamble on most platforms. They're going to ban you instantly, right? Which is not right, because then you're allowing people that are just blatantly throwing money and losing money, but you won't allow people that are good. But I think it definitely is an issue that you can't get around. And I think the sports betting side of things, it does change things. Like you said, I used to get it. I made a turnover late in the game at Brooklyn. I still remember it. I think we were down 1 or 2, made a turnover, tried to throw it to Steph and kind of overthrew it, went out of bounds. I was getting death threats on social media after that game because people had bets on whatever it was, the parlay or the multi or whatever. It sucks, but and I'm not for banning it, but it's just one of those things. I like that idea, though. I think role players and low level players should
be out of it.
You shouldn't be allowed to parlay on them, because I think it's right for that. College, even you look at college, there's a lot of kids that could. And it's been done since the test of time, 80s, 70s, 80s, point shaving and all that. Now you can do it in a unique way. Like, the easiest one to me is assists, because you can,
it's so fast.
Yeah, well, if you've got a plus minus of 10 assists a game, right? All right, I'm going to go the under, and then that player's in on it. All you do is you hold the ball for an extra second, and then as you swing it, you make sure it gets there while the defense has enough time to recover. Just like, oh, sorry, missed you. How are you going to prove that? How are you going to prove steals? Like parlay on steals or parlay on block shots. I could easily get an under on parlay with block shots. I'll just keep verticality. My coach told me I got to verticality, stop trying to reach at shots. So there's millions of ways to do this shit. Is it rampant? No. Is there probably, 5%, 10%, which then not directly the player, but goes along with family, cousins, friends that are getting information? For sure. I have no doubt in my mind there is.
I mean, information is key. Like, how do you know, how do you think these guys that are breaking stories all the time, get it? They got people, 5, 10, 15 people that are feeding them information from every franchise. So information is key, and you don't even think about it. Like, you could be in a staff meeting, and, it could be an analytics meeting. It could be a coach's meeting, and it could be the intern, and these betting guys. What do you think? Like, these big, betting people and people that get information, they pay those guys under the table or whatever, or they get them some type of favor to give them that information. And look, I think, everything's BRI. Like, all this money goes into the pot. These guys are making bigger contracts because of it. So progress is never free. Yeah, you're making all this extra money because of gambling, because of the gambling platforms and things, but Obviously, there's some issues there's going to be some security issues. There's going to be leaking information. There's going to be players trust me, it's going to happen. Somebody's going to follow somebody home and there's going to be an altercation because of a bet gone bad. There's going to be some of that, but that's what you get, from this. And I don't blame the league. Look, this is a big revenue, share for them. But they got to figure a way, maybe how to tweak this a little bit to make it a little bit safer. But you're right. Like, they go home and they talk to their boys at home. They talk to their agent. They talk to their runner. They talk to somebody who's going to get to the information. It's funny. When I was in Vegas, I have a friend of mine that was in the NBA a long time that was connected to the sports books and, knew people that were connected. And he told me that like on a lot of these sports books, they have the basketball, but just say for the basketball part of it, they'll have a guy that like knows the game inside and out. They have the information guy. That's a second separate guy that knows all the inner deals. Who's fighting with who's got an injury that no one knows about, all the inside dope. And then the third guy's the analytics guy. And they don't know who each other, they don't know each other. They never talk to each other. And then they communicate with the sports book, and that's sort of how they come up with their number and their figure. I mean, there's so much that goes into the sports betting side. There's so much money and there's so much information. There's so much manpower with this, but I think they just got to tweak it and figure things out. I agree with you.
I mean, there's no way. Like, this is I think it's a tap, it's a faucet. Like, you turn it on, you can't tweak it. Like, you're either allowing it or you're not. And I'm not for banning it. Like I said, I'm for people exercising free will and doing what they enjoy. And I don't think a few people that struggle with gambling addiction or whatever should ruin it for other people. But it is interesting, and these. I know a few actual professional sports bettors, and just from the poker scene and whatnot. And what's funny is these betting agencies will ban professionals, right? So what these professional bettors now are doing is they look for whales. They look for people that have lost a shitload of money. So say I'm Joe Blow, I've lost hundreds and thousands of dollars on a certain app. These pro sports bettors, the whales will reach out to them and say, I'm going to give you access to my account, just get me even. And then the sports bettor takes a cut. That's how they do it now. So it doesn't look, because if these sports bettors start a small account, you're usually capped. So your bets can only be $10, $20 a pop. Too late to get to know you, and you've lost enough. They actually find the biggest losers, and they'll get them back to zero. So I found that really interesting too. But it's a dark industry. And to think that, there's not mafia-esque type tactics like you just said, that have got to friends of players or cousins of players or even players at times or coaches or front office staff or whoever, cheerleaders, I don't know. But there's people that have been got to that will be making a clip. And then as we know, like the movies say, once you're in bed with nefarious people, you're not getting out. It's not as simple as, I'll make my quick $500,000 and then I'm done. No. Once we've got you in, you're in. There's no more. There's no getting out. We've got you by the balls, right? Yeah. So it is interesting, and I just don't think it's something they can turn off. But they're going to have to. We used to have. I'm sure you sat in the sports betting seminar protocol the NBA does once a year, where they sit you down as a team and say, "Hey, you can't bet on games. Hey, if you've got a cousin that's really asking some pointed questions about, oh, I saw Steph was limping last game. Is he going to play tonight?" And you wouldn't even think of this shit as a normal kid, 19, 20-year-old coming from college, that your uncle asks you, I'm a big Steph fan, I might want to come to the game tonight. Is he playing? And you're like, nah, he's out for two games. And then he's going to bet. You can technically get in trouble for that, because the NBA can say, you should have known better. Just basic conversation. It could be your dad, it could be your uncle. So they really try to educate the NBA players, for those that aren't on their phones in that meeting paying attention. But it is interesting, and I think something's going to happen eventually.
But also, Bogues, I think that the NBA needs to make the games more exciting, because if you look at it, if you go to the games and you look around, I would say 30% of people aren't barely even watching the game. They're on their phone, right? So now you add the sports betting. They need it. I think they need it for people to be more engaged to the game.
Especially game 55, Memphis versus Indiana, it's just like, you're not going to that game.
I think it just makes the game funner. It get more enjoyable for the average fan. That the 3 25-year-olds that go to the game that just want to get fucked up by drinking 5 or 6 beers for $300, and then they go, like bet on, they bet on whatever. They bet on Grady Dick scoring 11 points in a game or something like that. So it's like, where do you go from there? But I think that, look, I'm with you. You can't shut it off. It is what it is. You just got to figure, look, it preys on the weak. Most people on the planet are weak people. And that's why all these betting agencies and sports books make tons of money and they barely ever lose. Because usually some fucking moron is going to bet with their heart. They don't know what they're doing and they're going to get in a lot of trouble. But, it's funny to me that like you listen to the ads, right? And it's like down your throat that you need to gamble, you need to gamble, you need to gamble. And then for 7 seconds, they'll run off. Well, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800, get help. I think it's fucking hilarious because it's so fucking hypocritical. But that's where we are, bro.
Government regulation, but advice for people that are betting or betting, have a separate account, have a limit that's per month or per week or whatever it is. And then once you hit that limit, I think where people get in trouble is they, if you're going into mortgage payments or child support payments or stuff that's for your family, that's when you get in some big trouble. So try to, like everything, it's moderation. It's the test of time. You got to be moderate, be a moderate with everything. If you go too hard on anything, you'll cause yourself some problems. All right, moving on from that, G League Ignite officially gone. Put a line through them pro. They're gone after this season. Not sure why, but probably just not working out for them. Pointless, I guess. Great for the NBL. Great for college once again. I wonder if there's a little nil kickback coming to the NBA Pro to get rid of the Ignite program. But they've moved that on. It wasn't basketball that was appealing to the eye watching the G League Ignite. I know the NBL has potentially flagged doing something similar. I still hope they don't do anything of the such of trying to bring in kind of a next star team. I think that would be absolute suicide for the league. But yeah, that's gone. I think it's good for the NBL, and that's why kind of the news caught my eye. But what are your thoughts on it, Pro?
I think that the Ignite team did a good job with, and look, I think if you look at it from the outside and you see their record, you'd be like, yeah, wow, they're terrible, what have you. But the age of the players, I think that they had like 11 or 12 players drafted and a lot of top level picks and a lot of good players. And look, they got just as much development or a little bit more than they would at the average college team. The average college team usually has a head coach, it's a narcissist, and they'll have 3 or 4 assistants that just recruit. None of them, they couldn't turn Larry Bird into a guy who could score 10 points a game, most of those college coaches, assistants. So it's like, yeah, I think the G League Ignite did a decent job with developing the players. But the problem is when you're playing a G League schedule, even if you got really good players, they're 19 years old versus, even though the players are a little bit young, but a lot of those guys are pro players, 3, 4, 5 years in their pro career in the G League. It's really tough to compete even if you have really good players. But look, I thought it was I think it's a good thing that they did as far as giving players, like high-level players, another option. In my opinion, they probably should have limited it to 2 or 3 and then really got them. I mean, they tried to do this, but a lot of times they'll have 4 or 5 of those guys on the same team, and they got to play minutes. They got to showcase themselves because they want to continue to get players. I just think it's a tough model. I don't mind the college game. I don't mind if they go to the NBL. I don't mind if they go to other places to develop. I thought it was okay. But I don't care, like in development, I don't really care about the record. But I think a lot of these stories that really put a hole in them, that it was like their record, they're terrible. I don't expect guys like that to win even at the G League level yet. But I do believe them because, those guys in development, they've had some decent coaches there. But it'll be interesting going forward. Like you said, NBL is going to have a lot more options. And college will have a lot more options, especially with these NIL deals that these players are signing. So, and plus it's a lot of money. You get 4 or 5 guys making anywhere from like $400,000 to $1 million on the same roster. It's a little bit tough to, financially, especially when they're trying to negotiate a new TV deal. I'm sure they probably want to cut some costs and things, but Yeah, I'd be interested with because the NBA is definitely going to come up with something. They're going to come up with an academy. Adam Silver talking at the All-Star break about that stuff. So it'll be interesting what they come up with. The NBA is always thinking about something. They have these NBA academies all over the world. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to do a mega academy to try to get, hiring a lot of development people and just having its own thing. But I don't know. We'll see going forward.
Yeah, you just don't often see programs with the NBA going under or being terminated. It's just rare.
Yeah.
They usually morph into something else or tweak. So maybe you're right, but we'll see. Ice Cube has offered Caitlin Clark $5 million to play in the Big Three Pro. How do you honestly think she would go in the Big Three?
I think it'll be entertaining.
How would she go boxing out Reggie Evans for example?
Hey, it wouldn't be great. It would be entertaining, but it wouldn't be.
That's a physical league, man. Like the Big Three. The Big Three is more physical than the NBA. That is, they get into it. That is as close to street ball as you can get in an organized structure.
Compete. She could compete that. You'll give it to her at half court. She'll fucking jack up a shot. It'll be a disaster, but it'll be great for that league. Now, I did hear from somebody that's connected to the league that $5 million offer isn't really legit. I heard the league's not doing great. Maybe Ice Cube just said, "Hey, I'm just going to give it to it and see what happens." But I heard that wasn't 100% legit on the $5 million, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my people are wrong. But it wouldn't
marketing,
be too
you
good.
get your money. You get your money back just on marketing and people wanting to watch for the first couple of games at least. Where people, you'd have camera crews from all over the US. You'd have people, that love women's sports, men's sports, whatever, coming to see how it goes. But then I think after a couple of weeks of it, you'd be like, okay,
she can't.
Yeah,
she can't compete.
So.
She could, even with those players that are like long gone. You can't compete physically with that, and especially in a half court situation, you would think maybe in full court she could beat some people up. There's no way.
That's why I thought it's. I've watched a few of those games before. I know Barbosa played in them. A few of my former teammates have played in them. And like I saw Reggie Evans, and I can't remember who he was battling. Just WW, like it was wrestling. It was just throwing guys into the basket stand. Like it was just, and the refs are just like, get up. There's no, they're not trying to give you free throws like the NBA or the NBL where you hear a tweak, a whistle every possession down. It's intense. There's shit talking. There's been punches thrown in those games. So I don't think that would do too well. Good marketing, but other than that, not too much. Some housekeeping, just some injuries, pro. There's been a lot going on. Embiid close to return. He's practicing again reportedly, so don't know what that means. Practicing can be used very loosely from, does that mean non-contact? Does that mean 5-on-0? Does it mean 3-on-3? Does it mean actual full practices? I would still say he's probably a couple of weeks off if he just started practicing. So hopefully we see him back because Philly really have zero chance without him. Christian Wood and Jared Vanderbilt out for the season. Could potentially be back for the playoffs, so that hurts them a little bit with just some depth. Pistons rookie is it Osar?
Thompson. Yeah, Osar Thompson.
Osar Thompson missed the remainder of the season with blood clots, so hopefully he gets healthy. Kevin Huerter out for will need season-ending surgery of torn labrum. That's a huge out for them. They haven't been playing great, but still in the mix there, trying to capitalize on their last season, playing pretty well last season, bringing that into this year. They've been pretty inconsistent, but that's a huge out. A lot of scoring going there. Pat Bev will continue to play this season despite needing surgery on a torn ligament in his right hand. So he's gone from there. And by the way, did you see the backlash he got for naming the whitest black players?
Yeah, I saw that.
Like, what are you thinking, dude? Like, it was quite funny. And seeing the pushback from your guy Mo Bamba actually clapped back pretty well because he grew up in a pretty rough area, I believe, in New York. Was it Brooklyn or Harlem or somewhere down that way? He clapped back pretty well, but pretty silly thing for him to do. Anyway, college, what do you got for us? You went to some college games last night. What are you seeing?
A friend of mine's daughter works for Duke basketball, so we got some tickets and came to Dallas. So I haven't really been in tune to the college game, for a while. So he said, "Hey, you want to come?" So, paid my $40 to park and $80 in food. And, I got like one taco and one nacho for like $80. And so, no, it was cool though. It was a good experience. It was in middle of Duke, Duke heaven. Like if you're a Duke fan, forget about it. Like, saw a bunch of players, ex-players. David Robinson's son plays. for Duke. I saw Kyle Singler, a couple of guys I haven't seen in a while. But anyway, it was a good atmosphere. So you got NC State, which their coach was going to get fired at the end of the season. His agent should get agent of the year. I don't care who your agent is. This guy's agent of the year. So this guy was about to get fired. They were just looking for a reason. He wins the ACC tournament. He's got a clause in his contract where if you win the ACC tournament, he automatically gets like 2 years added to his contract. Not only does he win the ACC tournament, gets his 2 years, now he's making a run in the tournament where he's now in the Elite Eight, going to play Duke for the right to go to the Final Four. And this guy's about to get fired. Team was not very good. Now could go to the Final Four. And saw Duke. Duke had a couple of players that will be in the NBA draft still in the next year or two. So it's pretty interesting to watch. Not one of their better teams, but they got a couple of decent players to watch. I might go to the game tomorrow, but it's interesting because I haven't been in there since I got fired from the Mavs. So I haven't been in that arena since. So it was pretty cool I've never sat there, never sat in the arena myself. So it was pretty, at any type of an event. So it was pretty cool to watch that stuff, man. It's that college basketball though, dude. They make a lot of money, Bogues. A lot of money. So
I can imagine. It's I was there. I was there when they were selling my jersey, and I made $0 from it, eating off the Wendy's menu. But yeah, no, it's come a long way since then. I would have been okay with the whole. Just give me a couple of couple of thousand a semester would have been enough for a college student. That's all I wanted. I didn't want millions. I would have been happy with a couple of K a semester. I can go out to dinner. I can take a girl out. Couldn't even get that. I was getting $700 just supposed to cover my rent and fuel a month, which is ridiculous. You know what
they should have done back then, Bogues? They should have done, look, if they sell your jersey, I don't care if they sold everybody's jersey. You get a cut of that. It's your jersey, your deal.
Oh, it wasn't my jersey though, bro. It wasn't my jersey. It was just my number without my name on it. That's what they told me. So it wasn't technically my jersey.
Exactly. So my thing is I'm not really into this NIL where it is now, where it's out of control. Kids are leaving all these school things and things like that. But I think if they gave the kids, I read Fab Five, it was about Chris Webber and those guys at Michigan, where they were starving, which they weren't starving. They were all getting money off runners and agents and boosters. But let's just say they were starving and they were going across campus and seeing their jerseys sold in the bookstore for like $40 and they couldn't even eat. I think that was bullshit. But anyways, I think that anything that was sold, even if it didn't have your name on it, but it was your likeness deal, they should have gave you a cut of that individually. They should have allowed you guys to do, some stuff in the summer, run a camp, do appearances, stuff like that. I think that, and of course it's going to get evil and cheat with that too, but definitely with that, but it's out of control, folks. I saw so many agents that represent players that are playing and talking about what school and how much they're going to get paid and this and this.
Transfer
and they don't
portal,
get this.
blah, blah, blah.
Folks, It's unbelievable. The NCAA, all they need to do to clean this thing up is just get rid of the transfer where you're automatically eligible unless your coach gets fired or leaves, or there's a death in your family, immediate family, and you want to move to a bordering state or wherever you're born, or even get rid of that where it's just you can't, you can only.
What
leave
about
if your
committing
coach
to
leaves.
something and sticking with it? You know what I mean? I
agree.
Look, we all have issues at times, but it's I think it was much rarer when I was in school. And it was a pain in the ass to do. You have to sit out a year, and then you might get over-recruited anyway. That school's basically got you for a year to see, shit, maybe we made a mistake. It seems like now it's coach chewed me out. It didn't play me last game. Oh, I'm going to the transfer portal. It's what?
Folks, you know what they should do? They should have a transfer fee for anybody who wants to transfer. $25,000, $50,000, whatever it is. Hey, look, you want to be treated like a pro? You want to get paid like a pro? All right, we're going to, you want to leave, but it costs you this. Do something, but you can't be immediately eligible. I mean, a lot of these guys go into school knowing they're going to transfer to the next school. And I'm not talking about the great players. Great players are great players. I'm talking about the average player, the below average player. There's the first day of the transfer portal. There was something last year, I think there was 1,700 players in the portal itself. I think within 2 days, it was over 1,000 this year of the portal. It's just, it's insanity. And, it's sort of like European basketball where a lot of these guys, they flip their rosters They flip
Well,
their
it's the NBL.
rosters.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
the NBL is the same. I mean,
Yeah.
it's we have 1-2 year contracts and we get our players poached. If they do well, they get poached. If they do bad,
Yeah.
we're going to cut them. You know, we don't see the result either way, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, the college stuff, man, it's just a whole. I remember getting a living in Salt Lake City, Utah. You know, winter's coming, snow. I remember getting a. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter at this point. It's I guess there's a statute to the limitations where they can ping the school. But Rick Majerus, well, he's passed away anyway. May he rest in peace. So they can't really get him. But he bought the freshmen just some coats. You know, just bought us all a coat each, and got the interns to give it to us to say he's. They were like, do not tell anyone we bought you this coat. This is illegal. We're getting like a coat. A kid from Australia, like never seen snow before. Great gesture. Buy a coat. Like if the coat is swinging my decision to sign to Utah, like there's some fucking problems in the world, right? You know, that's what they hide behind back then. But now you're getting fucking Corvettes and Mercedes Benz and Bentleys, and it's like I was shitting myself about a coat, man. Like it was crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's really hard. Yeah, it's interesting, but it's really hard. These kids are gonna have a really hard time in the real world when all this stuff's over. Like the pro players are gonna be pro players, but the average player that's getting $150,000 a year at a Power 5 school that's not a pro, and it's not gonna be able to play pro at any level once they're done with school, and they think that this is it, you know, like and it teaches them they could transfer 4 or 5 times, and you know, there's always gonna be a parachute to fall under. But it is interesting with this whole
Good luck keeping a
rules.
job in the real world and establishing yourself in a job. You're just going to go. You're going to be one of those people that's had. You go to their LinkedIn. It's like 9 jobs in the last 2 months.
There was a girl who was one of the best players in the Big Ten. She plays at Indiana. I forgot the girl's name. She's from Maine. She just did a post. It was pretty cool. Like she did a post con. They just lost to South Carolina yesterday in the tournament. And she was like, look, for anybody who's out there, I was at Indiana for 5 years. I love this school. You know, I know the cool thing is the portal and this and that, but I never thought about it. I always wanted to fight my way through. And it's great. Like people who fight their way through. Look, like I said, if your coach leaves and they're the reason why you were going, and a lot of times it is, then that's fine. But, you know, it just, a lot of it's fed bullshit too about like slavery and, you know, like these guys are taking advantage of you. In most cases, it's not the case. You know, look, they give you 4-year scholarship. You have a chance to not only like prove yourself, get to the pro level as a basketball player, but also you meet so many people at that school that can help you out going forward and all the relationships you make. And it just teaches you a lot about life and being at school. And look, these schools are $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year to go to these days. I mean, I'm not saying that like players aren't a little bit getting taken advantage of, but like, you know, it's not really that bad. You get an education, you get to play, you know, in great arenas and great towns, meet a lot of people, have a chance to do great things, you know, and they were fed this bullshit about, oh, they're taking advantage of you. They're making billions of dollars. You and I spoke about the fact that the NCAA sort of puts a lot of money back. Now, look, they're tax exempt and that's bullshit. They definitely should pay taxes. But I'm just saying, like, you know, that they put a lot of their money back into non-revenue sports, about scholarships, about, you know, Division II and Division III and tournaments and things, you know.
Yeah, and sports sports that don't have pro leagues, you know. So there's a lot of sports that are.
And most of these schools don't make money at the end of the day because they got to pay for all these other sports. And it's interesting how all this stuff works. But yeah, so that was my. I might go tomorrow. I'm not sure, but it was a pretty cool. It was a pretty cool experience. I thought it was going to be a lot more painful than it was. It was. It wasn't bad.
I'm surprised Carlisle didn't have your photo at the front of the arena there. So
Bogues, I was thinking about that Knicks thing about the facial recognition when I got in. I thought some alarm was going to come off. It was the first time I got in, and it was an interesting experience. Yeah, I was safe for now. I don't know if they put a tracer on my car or what are they going to do, but I watched too many Jason Bourne.
You'll be all right. All right, let's move on to stats. I'm going to go with run most of them off, and I'm going to give you 3. I'm going to let you make the pick this week, bro. Dante Exum, 6.6 points, 1.5 rebounds, 2.1 assists. So recovering well from his injury in the rotation, doing well. Dyson Daniels, G League return, pro. Quick bounce back.
Oh, nice.
Month and a half surgery after a reported meniscus tear. Very strange.
Mm-hmm. That is strange.
That is the super bionic shit because he's come back super fast, and it's great for the. Great for the Olympic team, Australian Olympic team, Boomers. Hopefully he's healthy and doing well, but had a really good game in the G League. he will be back in the New Orleans rotation. And by the way, real quick, we're talking about it off air with Trent. Like New Orleans just quietly going about their business. We'll get into Zion a little bit.
Yeah,
they're playing really well. I think they're fifth in the West right now, and just quietly been going about it. So credit to them. They have a chance to be half decent in this playoffs, considering all the talk about the teams above and below them. They're having a really good year.
Yeah, but our boy screwed me for my fantasy team, and I was out of the playoffs because of him. Actually, I was in. I lost in the first round, but friggin' Brandon Ingram, man, going down really hurt me.
Yeah, that hurt. And they're still playing well without him, surprisingly. But they need him back. Josh Green out injured with a high ankle sprain. Still. Joe Ingles, 3.5 points, 2.6 rebounds, 3 assists per game, 5 for 12 from 3. Not his best couple of weeks. Had a good game today against Memphis in a 50-point-odd win, but hasn't been playing that great. Patty Mills starting for the Miami Heat now. Very interesting. Only been there a couple of weeks, and they've put in the starting lineup. 6.5 points, 0.9 rebounds, and 1.8 assists and 1 steal per game. Tease Thibault out injured with an ankle, came back for one or half a game, re-injured the ankle, so he's still out. Ben Simmons out, obviously, for the season with the back injury. All right, here's the top 3 stats, bro. I'm not going to name who they are because you're going to give the award this week. Player one, 12 points, 3.5 rebounds, 1.4 assists. That's player one. Player 2, 18.8 points, 5.6 rebounds, 6 assists per game. Player 3, 9.8 points, 6.1 rebounds, 1.8 assists, and 1.8 blocks.
Oh, the 9.8 guy for sure. It's not even close. Who is it?
It's Jock Landale.
Let me. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's Shaquille Landale is our weekly Aussie of the week.
All right.
You should have had Trent do it. You should have had Trent because you knew I was gonna pick him. So
I thought you would have got confused with him. So that Jock Landale, 9.8 points, 6.1 rebounds, 1.8 blocks, 1.8 assists, playing really good basketball. They've won 11 straight, huge part of that. The other one was Dwight Reith, 12 points, 3.5 rebounds, 1.4 assists. But Josh Giddey's had probably his best week out of the last probably 2 or 3 months, and you haven't gone with him. So I doubt he comes on a podcast again. But he's 18.8, 5.6, and 6 assists, 12 for 25 from 3. Also noted some comments. I don't know if you saw these. He was noted as being asked about whether he was becoming increasingly frustrated with the fact that teams are starting their 5-man on him at times and daring him to shoot the 3. And he had an interesting quote. He said something along the lines of, I was becoming somewhat frustrated with it and thinking about it too much, and then I realized I just got to knock him down. And he has the last 12 or 25 of the last 2 weeks. It's going to happen. It's going to happen in the playoffs. They're going to dare him. They're going to do the kind of what I did to Tony Allen back in the day. They're going to dare him to knock those down, and he's knocking them down. But his game completely changes. If he can knock 1 or 2 threes in at a good clip early in games, his game completely changes. But I thought he was a bit stiff, pro. So hopefully you cop some shit this week for not giving it to Giddey, like I copped it for not giving it to Landale last week.
Well, Bogues, it is what it is, my man. And my guy helped that team win 11 straight, and they were sinking ship when he was out of the lineup, and now he goes in the lineup. But I'm a big winning player type, and
KC's tied first right now, bro. Just so you know.
Yeah, they got a couple. They also have an MVP candidate and a couple other.
But just let you know, we're about winning.
I'll tell you what with Giddey though, with the shooting part. Look, they've got the best shooting coach in the NBA with Chip England working with him. He's going to get better, but you got to continue to have him out there. Especially in this stretch run in the next 3 or 4 weeks. His shooting is getting better. 34% from the 3. Like you said, 12 out of his last 25. It looks a little bit better. The free throw shooting's at over 80. He just got to keep on going out there and shooting it. And forget about what teams are doing against you. It's a fucking mind game. And if you're not strong enough mentally to focus that shit out, then you shouldn't fucking be there anyway. Who gives a fuck? If you start making them, they're going to start changing it anyway. No one cares about what you did 2 weeks ago. They care about what you're doing now. So you got to just continue to get back in the saddle, fucking shoot that shot when it's open. And one thing about Oklahoma City and Giddey too, they don't shoot 1,000 threes. They shoot a small amount of threes. They lead the league in 3-point shooting because they take really good threes and they're disciplined. They hold the line. And he's got to just continue to shoot. He's going to get better. And imagine that lineup with able to play him because he can make some shots here and there and not afraid to shoot. And now you got to guard all those guys. They're going to be tough. And now are they going to be experienced enough to win the playoffs? Who knows? but I think he's going to get better. He still has about 14 games or so left in the year to just continue to shoot. And if I'm that coach, I'd be drawing up ATOs all the time with him getting threes just to keep getting him reps and just to get him through it and, just to continue to support him. But I think it'll be interesting. But I don't give a fuck what he did because he ain't winning Aussie of the Week on my watch.
All right.
So
John Orlando. First ever.
Yep.
So, all right, we'll move on to some stats, useful or useless. Zion Williamson. He has lost 25 pounds since the NBA in-season tournament. The Pelicans are 35-19 since that tournament, and he's averaging 22.4 points, 5.8 rebounds, and 5.1 assists. Useful or useless?
Useful. Look, he needs to continue not only to be in shape this season, but going forward, off season and going forward with his nutrition and staying in shape. If he's in shape, not only is he a better player, but he stays on the floor. He's not, the injury stuff doesn't stack up against him, and he gets to just focus on basketball. And I think it's totally useful that he put up those numbers and they're winning games, and he has that much impact. He had very little impact on their winning when he was that heavy. And I think that, he put up points, no question about it, but I think him being in shape is a big, big plus for them.
Yeah, you look at them and you look at Dallas. Both their star players are in shape and playing well. Coincidentally, their teams are in the mix. So it's a pretty simple formula. And good on Zion for getting back in shape and playing himself into shape. And their team looks good. Ingram obviously hurt, but they're playing really good basketball. All right, Wembanyama's already had more career blocks, 207 plus, than 81.4% of all active players in the NBA as of the 19th of March. With 13 games left, Wemby has more blocks and steals, 290 combined, than the last 9 defensive players of the year, 213 blocks and 77 steals. Useful or useless?
Useful. This guy's going to be the best shot blocker in the history of the game if he stays healthy. I've seen a lot of great shot blocking. I didn't see Russell, obviously. I'm too young for that. But I've seen a lot of the big time shot blockers in our game going for, in the past 35 years or so. And I've never seen anything like it. He could block from the weak side. He could block you right from the post. He could chase you down. He could guard you and pick a roll. He could block shots in the perimeter. I've never seen. Now, I don't know about the other parts of his game. Obviously, there's a lot of special things that he does, but shot blocking and steals, he has an innate ability to just erase whatever you're trying to do. So I say it's very, very useful.
Yeah, very useful. Amazing defensively. And just his awareness and feel for the game, albeit, like I said many times, he can make massive mistakes defensively and be able to recover like most players can't. He can lunge for a steal and then recover and meet you at the rim and block your shot. Just amazing to watch. Amazing, just superhuman, spider-like player, and it's been enjoyable, but those numbers, last 9 defensive player of the year haven't had those numbers. Pretty crazy. I think he's going to be unlucky just because their team sucks from getting that award, but he's definitely in the running. All right, Anthony Davis. I know we've gotten on him before. A lot of people have gotten on him about injuries, but he's played 96 out of the last 100 games for the Lakers, and he's 5th in the NBA in minutes played. Useful, useless?
Well, useful for sure. Well, I mean, it's short term. He hasn't really done that in a long time, but I think it's useful to the fact that what he brings to that team. And he has stepped up in many games where he had, when LeBron either didn't have it or they just needed another guy to step up. And I think that's useful. Now, can he do it, in the next 3 or 4 years? I don't know. But he hasn't really been able to do that. Older.
But it's just good to see him healthy, and he's a big part of what they do. So I think it's useful there. Sabonis becomes the 10th player in NBA history to record a double streak of 50 consecutive games. He's now at 54. He's 4th all time in NBA ABA history. Post merger, he's 1st all time with the longest streak. Your longest streak, pro, is 227. Wilt Chamberlain over consecutive seasons, and the other players ahead of him are all part of the ABA, and Elvin Hayes, Elgin Baylor, and Walt Bellamy. But Sabonis is number 1 post merger. I doubt he's getting Wilt's number. He might get a few of the other guys, but unbelievable run there. I think Kevin Love was the last one to have a big run like this.
Those are great numbers. I mean, it's useful for what he's done and, what he brings to the game as far as every night just being a guy who could rebound, score. His game's just gotten better and better. I remember watching him, working with him at the Nike camp in LA, going into his freshman year at Gonzaga, and just seeing this short-armed, really strong, really tough kid, and not knowing how good he was going to be as far as an NBA player. He goes to OKC, and then, he still didn't know how good he was going to be. And then, Indiana and now Sacramento. It's great to see what he's doing. He's really impacts winning and can put up numbers. So I say definitely useful for what he's doing.
Very useful. He's 6'9", right? 6'8", 6'9"?
Yeah, about 6'9", yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just for people out there and, you have to be big to rebound. He's undersized in every matchup he goes in the NBA night in, night out, and just absolute animal on the board,
Yeah. Short armed too. He's not long armed, not overly athletic. He's just tough. And, his dad was different. He's about 6'10". His dad was just a different, he came over to play an AU team that I was affiliated with. It was before my time, in the late 70s. And they said what he could do before he got hurt. He could have been one of the best players in NBA history. And he's a different type of player, but he could pass, he could rebound. He's tough. He's, gritty. And man, it's great to see, because that trade, you didn't know what to expect from that trade. Everyone was all over Halliburton, doing so well for Indiana. And now it's great to see what he's doing to help Sacramento win and, have impact. And, the guy's shooting 60 from the field, 40 from the three, only 70 from the line. But, what he brings every night, 13.6 rebounds a night and 8.3 assists. Yeah, he's fun to watch.
And they need him. He's probably their best playmaker. I mean, Fox is not a assist type playmaker.
More of a scorer.
Yeah. So you need a big like that. He fits in well with that roster. All right, last one. This isn't a useless, but we're going to go NBA ejections all time, pro. We're going to get who do you think top 5 all time are in NBA ejections?
Oh wow, ejections.
Yeah. Well, we'll bring this
Bogues,
up.
I wouldn't even know where to begin.
The first one's pretty. Well, the first one should be
Draymond.
He's in the 5. He's not first.
Let me see. Lambert.
Nope. All right, you're way off. All right, Rasheed Wallace. He's the all time leader.
Yep.
He's got 29. Yep. Draymond Green second all time with 21.
Yeah.
Dwight Howard 17. And then 16 is Charles Barkley and Anthony Mason tied. I thought Rodman would have been in there too, but he's not.
I thought Rodman or Lambert would be. What do you think about the ejection with Green the other night?
I mean, he was going pretty hard. This is the thing when Draymond gets his first one, he's going to dare you to give him the second one, and the ref took the dare. It was there was a lot of blatant. I think called him a pussy ass N or bitch or something like that.
So just a hard foul, or do you think that was dirty? What he got ejected for?
On Patty? Was it that one? Was it
Patty or was it Orlando?
Well,
it might have been Patty.
Well, there's a lot of games.
I thought it was Orlando.
There's a big scrapbook of games we're talking about with Draymond fouling
it just
people
happened. It happened about a week ago.
Yeah, so
where he grabbed the guy and
he didn't get. He got a common foul on Patty,
which is crazy.
But that one was against Orlando Pro. But it was 4 minutes into the game, and it got quite a bit of news because Steph was seen.
I saw that
pretty
almost crying
after it.
I didn't see the foul. I just saw the ejection, and that was the second ticket was for going at the ref. I mean, that's do you do it as a ref? The ref was trying to walk away, he kept going. By the book, it's a ejection. But we'll talk. I'll give you a fact or fact or fake news on it later, bro. We'll go on for you this week. But yeah, that was just an interesting one to see who the all-time leaders were. She'd still got an eight game lead on Draymond, but Draymond's still active, so you never know. NBL, we'll wrap this up real quick. So we wrapped up game 1 last week. It was 1-0 for United. Game 2 in Tasmania. United were up 15 in this game in Tasmania. And Tasmania fight back and get the win. I think that was, potentially where United would have lost the series if they do lose this series. It was because of that game, but they clawed back and got the win. Game 3, we go to Melbourne. Amazing game. One of the best NBL finals games I've seen in recent memory. Just back and forth. Delhi made some huge plays and then made a bad play. It ends up being Melbourne ball, their ball. 10 seconds left. So Tasmania have to foul, and a flop ends up costing them the game, in my opinion. Delhi throws a turnover, but if you watch the replay, CG43, known to fall over with a bit of wind, he ends up near the sideline, grabs McDonald's arm, falls over the sideline trying to get a foul before the ball's inbounded. As that happens, Delhi throws him the ball. He falls over, goes straight to Milton Doyle, gets thrown to the baseline of United. Milton Doyle, for some reason, saves the ball because they have no timeouts left. He saves it, could have been out of bounds, borderline. Doesn't go out of bounds. They save it. Jack McVeigh, did you see the shot, bro? He dribbles up and hits a. Oh man, you got to see it. You got to. It should be on my account, but look up Game 3 NBL. He dribbles up with 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Jacks it with 4 seconds left. One step over the half court line with 4 seconds left. He could have got to the basket and knocks it down. And United has no timeouts. They have no timeouts. They shoot a full court heave. They miss 2-1 Tassie. We go to Tasmania now, and Melbourne just grinded out a win. Tasmania have full control of the game. They have the ball with up 3 with about, I think, 30 or 40 seconds left. Milton Doyle brings it over half court, turns it over, live ball turnover for a layup. They go and lay it up. Tassie up 1. Melbourne United come down, get a stop. They call a timeout, and Delhi, they let him get to his right hand for a layup, basically. I couldn't believe it. Delhi's going to go right 101% of the time, and when he doesn't, he's going to cross back over and get to his right. And he got to his right hand, made a layup on the buzzer and close to the buzzer, and then Tasmania had the last possession. They advance it, they turn it over. Joe Lawala-Chul makes a huge defensive play late in that game. He's been horrible for him defensively for the most of this series. It was really, really big play to seal the game. Game 5, series decider in Melbourne. A great start for United. I feel like they were in a similar position to what Tassie were in Game 4, where I felt like Melbourne dominated that first quarter, and Tassie just made a little run late in that first to get it down to 5. I think that was very flattering for Tassie. They didn't play great basketball in that first quarter, and Melbourne managed to not put their foot on Tasmania's throat, which was the flip side of what Tasmania did in Game 4. They were the dominant team in the first quarter and only had a small lead. Very similar circumstances, just flipped. Second quarter goes absolutely dry. Melbourne scored 31 points in the first. They only scored 13 in the second. It gets really clunky for them. Tasmania throughout the game were getting stops. They just couldn't capitalize offensively. And United, the game goes tied at halftime. Melbourne full control of the third quarter and even most of the fourth, and then Tasmania make a run late and just snatch victory from Melbourne United. I feel like Melbourne let this game go. It felt like Delhi was really the only guy late in that game that was willing to, make a play. I mean, he made a few mistakes, shot an air ball, but he was aggressive towards the basket. It seemed like everyone else was just waiting for something to happen. You look at Melbourne scorers. Lawala-Chul was their best scorer with 14 points in 21 minutes, at 6 for 11 from the field. He was their leading scorer for the game. Delhi had 13 and 7 assists. Travers had 13 and 7. CG43, 13 points and not much else. I think if Melbourne got over the line, a lot of people had Chris Golding as the MVP. I didn't. I had Dellavedova as the MVP, if not Travers. I think Chris's scoring came in bunches, but there was not much else that he really did, in my opinion, in that series other than small scoring flurries. I thought Travers was really good, especially on the defensive end, getting them going early, and Dellavedova was the same. Ian Clark, 11 points off the bench. We'll probably need a little bit more from him. He dried up a little bit in that second half and couldn't get anything early. United's bench just not enough production, and you look at Shea Ely, Chris Golding, and Dellavedova. They were fatigued by the third quarter. They were not running at that same speed. Everything was a grind. I mean, both teams were somewhat fatigued, but those 3 guys in particular, to me, just looked absolutely spent, and that showed. But Tasmania, credit to them. I mean Crawford. Kind of a up and down series and up and down finish to the season in that lineups. Only played roughly 20 minutes a night up until this game. He just comes out and he looked like he was throwing rocks into an ocean. I mean, he could not miss, and he was, when their offense was super dry, they couldn't get anything easy. He just continued to find them easy baskets. An absolutely unbelievable historical Game 5 performance. 11 for 22 for his 32 points. But the first half was where he got it done, where they were struggling to score at times, and he just kept them close enough. I mean, Magnay on one leg, at times you were like, why is he still in the game? Well, comes up with a huge block shot late in the game, comes up with a huge dunk late in the game, didn't play his best, but limped them towards victory. Milton Doyle, I was looking and just wondering when Roth was going to stop going to him. He had a horrible series for the most part, in my opinion, but he closed this game very, very well. He kept attacking and putting his nose on the rim. He finished with 11 points and 10 rebounds. Not a great clip, 5 for 15, 3 turnovers. It just looked like it wasn't his night, and he makes a couple of great plays. Deng off the bench for them was pretty good. And an adjustment by Roth in this game was electing to put Drimmick on the bench, starting McDonald, and won the series, in my opinion. McDonald played 35 minutes. Drimmick played 9. He struggled in Game 4. They flipped that. And just an unbelievable performance. I mean, the Jack Jumpers really only played 8 guys throughout this game, and United, they went 4 deep. They went with Krebs and Bowen for 3 and 4 minutes respectively, but Huck, Porty and Clark were the only 2 others. So a lot of fatigue in this series. I feel like Tasmania won it, but Melbourne also let the rope slip. They had control of that series. I mean, they were up by, I think it was 8 points going into a timeout, and Tasmania come out and go on a 10-1 run and tie the game up. So absolutely huge congratulations to the Tasmania Jack Jumpers. I mean, to be your 3rd year in the league and win a championship. You've been in the finals twice in that 3 years. One loss against Sydney Kings, 1 win against Melbourne United. Absolutely tremendous for Scott Roth and that fan base down there. You should be very proud of your team. I know, the Sydney Kings and myself had a bit of banter with the Jack Jumpers a few years ago, and it's all in love. You deserve this, and I think the whole of Australia was cheering for you guys. It was Australia versus Melbourne. It's nothing better to see a bunch of Melbourne fans in their RM boots having a wake up tomorrow for their mocha chai latte with a sad look on their face. So congratulations to the Jack Jumpers. Melbourne will bounce back. Congratulations to them as well, in all seriousness. They had a great season, first from start to not finish, but finished. All right, some free agency stuff with the NBL. There's a lot going on, bro. We might have our wildest free agency in recent memory. There's a lot going on. There's players being mutually released from contracts to go sign somewhere else. Nathan Sobey, the latest biggest name, departing the Brisbane Bullets, rumoured to be signing with the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. From what I hear, Sobey wanted an extension with the Brisbane Bullets. He had 1 year left on the deal. He said, "Can I get an extension?" I think he just bought a house recently in the last year in Brisbane. Wanted an extension. They said, "Look, we don't want to extend you right now. We want to see how it goes." And he said, "Okay, let me out of my deal. I'm going elsewhere. Then you don't want me here long term. Adios." They've released him, apparently going to Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. Last week, we didn't really touch on it, but Xavier Cook's back to the Sydney Kings. Huge signing for us. Championship winner, league MVP. Does a lot of the little things for us that we need. We're excited to get him back after his stint in Japan there. It costs us a little bit of money, but you got to pay to get the best. I've heard Aaron Baines is retiring. I'm not 100% sure on that. But there's some rumblings I've heard from my circles that he will be hanging up the shoes and giving it up. I know he's got a young family that he's focused on right now, and probably wants to move on from the basketball thing. Not the best season for him last year, and I hate to see guys going out like he's gone out. Had the issues, had the ejections, fiery guy. I just hope he doesn't leave the game with a bad taste in his mouth, and you just never want to see that, because there's a lot of things that can happen later on in your life with that kind of stuff. So I hope he's in a good space there. But yeah, I think this NBL free agency is going to be nuts. It's just one of those things. There's a lot of movement. A lot of teams are getting off guys that they paid a lot of money for. There's a lot of buyouts going on. There's a lot of places, a lot of players almost trade-like moves. Also hearing Mitch Creek could potentially be on the move from Southeast Melbourne. I think he has a year left on his deal, but I've heard he's looking at 2 teams elsewhere. Brisbane or possibly Tasmania has come up as well. So I'm interested to see how that all goes, whether there's any truth to those rumours. But there's a lot going on, and it is interesting. The Kings roster, can't give too much more info, but really happy with where we're at and where some kids overseas that we're looking at, and some other players that we hopefully will announce in the next couple of weeks. Obviously, free agency doesn't start till 2 weeks after the grand final series, which is now. So we'll see how that all goes. But I'm excited about the Kings Pro. That's the NBL wrap. But you need to go watch that buzzer beater, man. Come on, for the people of the Rogue Bogues pod, they need you to see that shot. But an unbelievable shot, unbelievable shot. Like
that's amazing.
Sounds
amazing.
Further than that Steph shot against OKC. And
that's crazy.
But the fact that he shot it, if he would have missed that, he would have looked like the biggest dickhead in the world, because it was 4 seconds left. They were in the bonus. They could have got fouled. He had the whole right side of the court. He could have attacked. Melbourne United were pretty well loaded up on the left side, but he could have definitely got to the basket. He just pulled up and shot it so pure and walked it off. And actually had a chance in game 4, the similar shot, but flat, and almost banked it in to win the game. So that was interesting as well. But fact or fake news, Pro, I'm going to give you mine first. Okay.
Go ahead. What do you got?
Fact or fake news? Draymond Green will be the all-time leader in ejections by the time he retires. He's on 21. She's on 29. So he needs 9 to win, 8 to tie.
Fact.
Why?
He doesn't have a lot of restraint with that, where he could just turn it off. I remember working for Kobe, in the playoffs, you know how you could only have a certain amount of technicals and you start missing games. And I remember one year, I think it was 2010, he was really bad with it, and we had to talk about it. And he was like, I'm shutting that shit off. It ain't going to happen again. And it didn't. And I forgot where we were in the playoffs, but it just didn't. And was a fiery guy. And there were certain guys that can shut it off when they know it's going to be detrimental to the team. I think Draymond, when he gets to a certain point, you know him better than I do. I only watch him. But it just seems like he's the type of guy that, like, when he gets on one, that's it. And he goes nuts. And it depends on who's reffing him that night and how much abuse they're going to take from him before they, put a tech or an ejection in. I just don't think he has the restraint to do it. Now, does he have enough years playing to do it? He's got 8 more, and he'll be playing for 3 more years or so, 4 more years, give or take. Maybe that's a lot, but I don't think so. If he plays for 4 more years, it's 2 more ejections a year. I just don't know how long he's going to play for. But I say fact. I just think that he's not really going to ever really learn from any of this stuff, like the ejections, the suspensions. I just think that he's a competitor. He goes, hard. He goes balls to the wall. And if he feels as though he needs to make a point on something or make a hard foul or cheap shot, he's going to do it. That if he thinks it's going to benefit the team, or he's just feeling like that one day or one night, I just think he just doesn't have the restraint for it. What do you think, Bogues?
Yeah, look, I think fact, just based on as we all get older, we get more grumpy, our body hurts more. You got these young whippersnappers coming up nipping at your ankles, and they're no longer going to be that top dog for much longer, or they're not right now, right? I think there's some frustrations in that, and he's going to have these young guys, going at him the same way he went at all the older guys when he came in the league. And that can become, whether they're ejections for double technicals of just argy-bargy, whether they're mad at the officials, whether they're flagrant fouls. I think he has a chance to catch sheets, so I'm going to say fact. He needs, 3 more a year for the next 3 years, and he's there. That's not a lot in 82 games plus playoffs, So I hope not, but he's an emotional guy, and that's part of who he is and why he's great is – that you're going to get balls to the wall, Draymond Green every night, but once every couple of weeks and once a month, you got to get him back and put him on the tracks. That's what makes him so good and so great. You don't want it the other way around, where you need to motivate a guy and constantly go, come on, man, give me some more energy. He's got all that 24/7, and sometimes it hurts him and his team, as we saw with Steph's reaction.
It's funny, like Rodman was different than him. Rodman was flamboyant, but not where he's cheap shotting or hard fouling to that extent or going after refs. He had some moments, but you got to let those types of guys go and do their thing. I remember I'm watching the Last Dance for the 19th time, and the part when Rodman had to take the vacation during the season to Vegas, right? Like Phil Jackson, the way he dealt with him, and it's funny with Kerr and Jackson being a lot of the same type of guy, like they just let him be Dennis. And look, that's a lot different than Draymond, some of the things that he does with the cheap shot and getting, potentially getting some guys hurt and doing some things like that. But like you said, it's what you need, those types of guys. There's the skill, graceful players that you all need. You need the talent. But then there's always that guy on almost every team that's the cheap shot guy, that's the hard foul guy, that's the, get in your face, want to fight anybody guy, and gonna get himself thrown out guy. And you need that to be a championship level team, and that's proven, and because he was a big part of their success in every one of their championship teams. And I think that you just can't turn that off, because once you ask him to quote unquote medicate himself and just sort of dumb it down, then I don't want him on my team, because offensively, I don't want him on my team. Yeah, he passes, he rebounds, and screens and all that. But like, he doesn't give you a lot offensively. He doesn't really shoot it, doesn't really score it like that. But what he does, what's special at a high level, is his ability to be tough, rebound, pass, screen, and just be an intimidator. And you need those types of guys. And almost everybody on that list was that type of guy, 100%. An intimidator, so you need that. But,
Yeah, he gets shit for it, and looks at times he overdoes it, and last game was an example of that. I mean, Steph knows how important these games are right now to try to make a push to the play-in and beyond. But yeah, it's a tough one. You got to take the good with the bad. He's one of those players. You got to take the good with the bad, and Steve knows that. Mm-hmm. If they saw it as that big of an issue, he wouldn't be there right now. He wouldn't be there today. They would have tried to move off him years ago. But they know the value he brings, especially when it's a big game, need a big stop. Big playoff series, he's generally done more good than bad. Bar the one championship year where the suspension did cost things a little bit and reshuffle things, but for the most part, there's been a lot more net positive with him than net negative. It's just that we love to talk about these kind of things as we are, and that's just the way it goes. What do you got? What's your fact or fake news?
So Bogues, Jalen Brunson 61 last night, and I mean, amazing what he's doing on the floor. Being a leader, being the number one option in Madison Square Garden every night, being with the Knicks and just being a number one option. My question, the fact or fake news is we'll compare him to another quote unquote superstar. Jalen Brunson is a better player. You would rather Jalen Brunson on your team today, not barring injury, just sort of talent for talent, than Ja Morant. Fact or fake news?
Oh, wow. That's a good one. Is that including the off-court shit?
Well, everything. So just say Ja Morant's healthy. So he doesn't have the injury stuff. The off-the-court shit is still there. He's still the same type of guy. But right now, you have a max-level spot. They're both free agents. They both come to you and say, Bogues, we want to play for your team. You could sign one of us. You're signing Jalen Brunson over Ja Morant, and I want to know the why.
Oh my God, that's a really hard one. It's a really roster fit would be important in this one, so you'd have to kind of know what pieces you have around. Ja Morant is a price of admission guy more than Jalen Brunson, in my opinion, as far as oohs and ahs and wow. So if you're probably a rebuilding team that needs some bums on seats, you go Ja Morant. But Brunson, we're all about what have you done for me lately, and based on that, I'd go. I'd take Jalen Brunson as of today, just because there's no off-court issues. He seems real level-headed. He seems like he's got a good aura about him off the floor, not in trouble, does the right things, can just get it hot like we saw the other night, and he's turned New York around. You look at Memphis, a big reason why they're where they're at is Ja Morant. Okay, yeah, you had the issues, and then but then it led into a bad injury, karma, all this kind of stuff. I think that Brunson seems to do things the right way. You haven't heard a lot of people talk bad about him, even in Dallas. And I think what have you done for me lately is that the only thing I'd have Ja Morant above him on is woe factor. I think he's probably a bigger for the average NBA fan. You'd say 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 would pick seeing Ja Morant play over Brunson, right? Just because he's going to do something exciting, he's going to dunk on someone, he's very flashy. Whereas if you're a GM and you just want solid, you're going with Brunson.
Yeah, I say fact. I say Jalen Brunson. And here's why I say Jalen Brunson. First of all, they're both great players. They're both great point guards. I've got them like one pick ahead of the other. In point guards in the league, I've got Brunson at 7, and I've got Ja Morant tied for 8th with De'Aaron Fox. And I think that Brunson has shown, look, yeah, the wow factor and the athleticism and the explosiveness goes to Ja Morant with no question. The shooting, the efficiency, the basketball IQ, my opinion goes to Brunson. The ability to guard people, keep people in front, Ja Morant without question. But what this kid across the board, if you follow Jalen Brunson through high school, through college, through the pros, I remember being in the draft room in Dallas, and we had some decisions to make. That was the Luka draft, and then we had in the second round pick with Jalen Brunson, and a couple of people didn't want Brunson for no other reason but like the athleticism factor. We had a couple other point guards in the roster, but I remember Donnie Nelson and a couple other high-ranking people all across the board, they just kept on saying over and over, this kid's a winner. And I think that Jalen Brunson impacts winning more than almost any player in the league as far as what he brings to it every day. And being with him for a year, I've never seen a player that was a more turnkey rookie that was ready to be a professional than that guy. And I don't know what it was. Obviously, his dad playing for a long time, family, going to Villanova with a great coach, all that. But the kid just is a winner, and he's somebody who wants on your team, and he pulls for teammates, and and he's got talent. I mean, 28 a game, being the number 1 player, not on like the Brooklyn Nets or a team like that, or Brooklyn or San Antonio or something like that. He's at 28-7 on a playoff team that has a chance to win a round in the playoffs at least. And
he's 4th in the league in scoring.
Close.
I didn't realize he was that high up. He's 4th in the league in scoring.
Yeah, 28.
13th in assists, and he's
48%. Yeah, 48, 84, 40. I mean, and shooting was his thing that needed a little bit of work coming in the league. He ended up working with a shooting coach named Peter Patton that's with the Bulls now. Did a fantastic job with him. But that guy just works. He wins. I remember him coming in. We were on the road, and we would leave the arena. We would leave the hotel at 3:30, 3:45, and he was ready to go. And like everything that he brings to the table, and just that's what you want. And like I said, it's really close. And I don't know Ja Morant like that, but I do know that guy, the trouble thing definitely sticks. And they are very close in talent, as far as what they bring, different things. But Brunson, all day long, I want that guy on my team. Like you said, he's not a sexy guy to watch. He's not going to dunk, 5 times a night. He's not going to make those unbelievable plays. But he's a guy that will just figure things out, able to score, create space, create separation. And he's a hell of a player. And,
longevity
but
wise
I think it's
too.
close.
You got to think longevity wise. His style of basketball, injury wise, will be better. Ja Morant's style. You worry about him so much, man. Like going in and dunking on 7-footers every night. Yeah, it's great, but you're gonna get put down a lot, and he gets put down a lot. And it's the Derrick Rose kind of thing. Like
Derrick Rose.
But you look at Brunson, and it's kind of like below the rim, more kind of using his body, smarts, IQ, all that kind of stuff, and it doesn't take as much of a toll on your body. So I think that's the other thing you got to factor in. If it's a long-term player for your franchise, you're like, I think you're going to get more out of Brunson, more games on court than you will Morant. That was a good one. It's a tough one because they're both very good players, but hopefully Morant can bounce back next season because I think Memphis is a very good team when healthy.
Yes.
But they just, it just looks like crap right now, and a big part of it is Morant.
Who does Trent like?
I would have went with Morant. Like you touched on IQ. I actually think Morant, IQ-wise, is like one of the best IQ guys for his age in the league, and I think a few other players have actually kind of testified to that. With CP3 and Draymond have both said that the thing that impressed them the most by Ja was that. But I also come back to the longevity thing as well. Like you look at D Rose's career, MVP and all that, but it's like. For a franchise, it didn't lead to winning, lead to ticket sales. So I think I've been swayed to the Brunson side because I definitely probably would have picked Ja, especially on the defensive end as well. I think he brings more.
I'm confused. So you see, so you started with John. Now you're going all the way back to Brunson.
We swayed him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Wow.
If you asked me the
Interesting.
question off the bat, I probably would have went with Jar. But the longevity and you're looking to win chips, your Brunson's your guy.
And just no IQ off the floor, Trent. Just on floor, right?
Just on
Let's
floor.
be clear.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah.
So I'll make that clear.
Yeah, I have a feeling that in the situation at an airport, I think that Bryant will be randomly stopped a few more times than Brunson, in my opinion.
Yeah, just random. All right, good at pro. All right, a lot through there, through that episode. Lots to get through, but yeah, NBL finals obviously gone now. So off season of free agency, and then the NBA going into money time. We'll see. And by next pod, we'll have a NCAA championship winner as well, and then obviously EuroLeague kicking off as well overseas. So Pro will get back to his nightly EuroLeague that much to the awe of some of our listeners saying, "No way you watch that shit over the NBA," but that's what Pro does. Go watch the buzzer beater, Pro.
Let's do it.
All right, man. We'll see you next week.
Later, fellas.